Multi-agent AI is ushering in a new era, the cognitive assembly line. But is your supply chain ready for it? I'm Randy McClure with SC Tech Insights. If you still rely on static forecasts and spreadsheet operators, you are falling behind. Today, I'll break down the four critical pillars you must implement to transform your operations into an AI automated powerhouse.
We're taking a definitive look at the structural transformation required in modern supply chain management. We're operating in a high-stakes reality where relying on legacy systems just isn't a viable business strategy anymore. For enterprise organizations to survive, you absolutely need a data-first infrastructure. It's a fundamental engineering challenge, and frankly, it's a matter of adapt or perish. We're going to calmly and objectively break down exactly how leading organizations are architecting this new cognitive operational state. Here is our highly structured agenda for today's briefing. First, we'll examine the legacy infrastructure bottleneck. Second, architecting just-in-time data pipelines. Third, deploying continuous AI intelligence. Fourth, elevating the human workforce. And finally, scaling the competitive moat. Part 1, the legacy infrastructure bottleneck. The primary complication many of you as executives are facing right now is the attempt to run highly advanced artificial intelligence on crumbling siloed data foundations. It's a fundamental engineering mismatch, and it has to be addressed before any real progress can be made. To resolve this, let's establish a shared taxonomy right up front. Our target operational state is the cognitive assembly line. This is an environment where multi-agent artificial intelligence executes complex business decisions at speeds humans simply cannot match. We're moving away from manual oversight and shifting to a system where specialized AI agents collaborate autonomously to optimize logistics and procurement in mere milliseconds. Notice the stark contrast here between application-centric legacy systems, which are characterized by siloed business intelligence dashboards, 60-tab spreadsheets, and ambiguous data, and the required data-first infrastructure. This modern approach relies entirely on clean, integrated data to fuel high-velocity, multi-agent AI. The objective takeaway is clear. An application-centric mindset is obsolete. AI simply cannot run without absolute data readiness. Part 2, architecting just-in-time data pipelines. We need an engineered solution to that legacy bottleneck. The reality is, the most sophisticated AI is practically useless if it's starved of actionable data. Think about it like a physical assembly line. It shuts down without raw materials. The cognitive assembly line halts without a continuous flow of pristine information. This core constraint is exactly why reallocating IT investment away from isolated software applications and putting it directly toward foundational data infrastructure is absolutely non-negotiable for the C-suite. Deploying these pipelines requires 5 actionable steps for leadership. Step 1 is executive commitment. The C-suite has to consciously pivot the IT strategy from software first to data first. Step 2 is setting the standard, where business leaders define strict, data-ready guidelines for all IT projects. Step 3 requires a commitment to shared business taxonomies, establishing a common language so humans and AI have a seamless understanding. Step 4 is executive stewardship. You can't rely on a back-office project management office for this. It requires direct C-suite ownership to remain a top priority. And finally, Step 5 is reallocating IT investment away from legacy silos and directly into data-ready infrastructure. That is your roadmap to trusted, on-demand insights. Part 3, deploying continuous AI intelligence. This next strategic pillar requires replacing outdated forecasting with a continuous self-learning system. Clinging to static BI and forecasting is effectively managing your enterprise by looking in the rearview mirror. It only reports last week's failures, and it leaves departments completely isolated. Continuous intelligence, on the other hand, utilizes rapid cycle feedback loops. It deploys multi-agent AI to actively prevent tomorrow's disruptions before they even occur. Relying on piecemeal dashboards during a supply chain crisis just isn't sufficient anymore. A seamless AI feedback loop is required to maintain operational superiority. Let's methodically break down the business analytics continuum. Continuous intelligence blends these stages seamlessly. We start with descriptive analytics to ask what happened to identify anomalies. Diagnostic analytics then asks why did this happen to determine root causes. Then we move to predictive, asking what is most likely to happen to validate probable outcomes. Next is prescriptive, answering what action should we take to recommend optimal courses of action. Real-time analytics provides on-demand insights to answer, what do I do right now? And finally, AI-powered analytics explores massive data sets to answer, what questions did I not even know to ask? By moving through this continuum continuously, your infrastructure essentially becomes a self-correcting engine. Part 4, elevating the human workforce. Now, when addressing the organizational integration of this technology, there's a very common misconception that AI simply eliminates human workers. The reality is quite the opposite. We're actually observing a profound shift in roles. We're transitioning from the spreadsheet operator who spends their time on grueling, manual data crunching to the cognitive line manager. This new role focuses entirely on exception handling, strategic alignment, and driving innovation. Your organization's true competitive advantage will lie in how effectively your human talent manages, directs, and optimizes the automated AI decision engine. To successfully manage this cognitive line, specific human skill sets are required. First is human agency, the ability to formulate overarching goals. For instance, if the AI is optimizing strictly for cost, human agency overrides it during the crisis to prioritize supply chain resilience. Second is discernment, the capacity to evaluate ambiguity. When an algorithm misses a nuanced geopolitical risk, a human uses discernment to synthesize that complex information. Finally, leadership, the ability to clearly communicate intent and drive execution across skeptical human teams to implement the AI's optimized outputs. These are the skills that empower the enterprise. And finally, part 5, scaling the competitive moat. We must define exactly how this infrastructure investment translates directly into sustained market dominance. Scaling cognitive operations requires focusing on 4 foundational pillars. First, you must establish continuous data readiness to unlock complete, end-to-end supply chain visibility. Second, you must formally build out the cognitive assembly line through specialized integrated AI agents that execute complex workflows. Third, you must drive rapid decision-making by replacing backward-looking dashboards with self-learning systems that prescribe immediate action. And fourth, you must forge a resilient supply chain that successfully fuses agility with lean efficiency, ending that traditional trade-off between cost and flexibility. When you achieve this, you stop reacting to disruptions and start dictating the pace of your industry. To cement this analysis, let's consider an insight from supply chain tech advisor Randy McClure, sourced directly from our text. He notes, scaling cognitive operations across your enterprise doesn't just fix broken processes, it builds an insurmountable competitive moat. That effectively summarizes the absolute necessity of this operational shift. It's not merely an IT upgrade, it is the establishment of structural market superiority, which leaves every executive leadership team with a critical defining decision. As you enter your next strategic planning phase, you have to ask yourself, will your next IT budget cycle continue to fund legacy, siloed applications, or will you allocate capital to build the data-first infrastructure?
Hello, this is Randy McClure from SC Tech Insights. Thank you for listening. For more on this topic, click the article link below or go to www.sctechinsights.com for the latest insights on supply chain technology. Thank you and see you next time.